What's going on, you guys? Slim here with a new video today, and today, you guys, I got my boy Ulises 5th place Las Vegas Regional CRYSTRON deck profile. That's right, my boy Ulises. I call him aka the professor because he is literally like a mad scientist, just always topping with crazy decks, trying new decks. If you guys remember, he made top 16 at YCS Anaheim with Malice, and now he's back in the kitchen cooking with literally CRYSTRON. This deck is nuts, and I'll tell you firsthand, I learned about this deck at YCS Orlando. I actually played it round 3 in Swiss, and did I know what was going on? Absolutely not. I was one of those bad players. I had to read like every card and see what was going on, and I didn't really have too much interaction with the deck I was playing, so it wasn't too bad, but I ended up winning that match only because I realized Lancia was like good against the deck, so I got really lucky in that sense. But I really got to see like how far the new support has pushed this deck, and it's really cool to see that other players are finding success with it. Like, shout out my boy Yassine. I know he made top 8 as well at a regional in Montreal with the deck, and I know he was playing it at Orlando as well because we talked about it. So this deck is definitely getting certain players interested in playing it, and it's glad to see that, you know, something else besides Ryzel and Malice variants and Fiendsmith variants can still, you know, pop up in the meta and, you know, try to do something. I know we have Blue Eyes, but it's cool to see CRYSTRON, you know, out here trying to do things as well. So we will get into it. What I'm going to do is just go over the list and just mention a few things that he told me about the deck. It is pretty straightforward. There are some things in here that I didn't see in the list that I play against the guy that I played round 3, so it's really interesting, some of his choices, but we will get into it. I'll start with the hand traps as always. Of course, he's got the Ash Blossoms, he's got the Veilers, he's got the Fuas, and he's got the Nibs as well as the Imperms. Nothing really to explain here. Hand traps are hand traps. They're going to be impactful in every format, especially this format. You just want to play all these. You can see in the side deck as well, he's like got every basis covered with this deck, so you do have the ability to play a lot of non-engine, so that it is really good for a deck like this. Having those good hand traps, I think it's, what is it, 15 I think in the main deck, 3, 6, 9, 12, yeah, 15 in the main deck, being able to play that. Plus he's also playing Droplets as a board breaker, so that's really, really solid. We'll go on to the CRYSTRON monsters now. So he's only playing one copy of the CRYSTRON, the Sea Tree, and then he's playing 3 copies of the CRYSTRON, the SlimYGO, as well as 2 copies of the Sulfador and 3 copies of the Sulfanier, 1 copy of the Thistvern. If I'm not saying these names properly, forgive me, these names are kind of complicated, so just let me know in the comment section down below if I'm saying them right or not. And 3 copies of Tristaros, I want to say that's how you say it. So that was the CRYSTRON lineup, along with the new spell. This was definitely one of the cards I had to read when I played against it in Swiss. We got CRYSTRON Inclusion. This card is crazy too. Being able to protect your monsters is nuts. And then they do have a lot of main graveyard effects. That was the thing I was learning as I was playing against it, because I lost the dice roll, so I ended up going second. And just watching them just like combo off, and then their board ends. A lot of times they'll have this up, or they'll also have the trap card, which he did want to mention is literally the best card in the deck, the CRYSTRON Cluster. If you're not familiar with it, first thing it says is CRYSTRON cards you control cannot be banished by your opponent's card effects. That's like just crazy. You can't banish them, you can't Fenrir them, anything like that. Then you're able to target 1 face-up card on the field, or you can target 2 if you control a CRYSTRON Synchro monster, which you usually do. And you shuffle 1 CRYSTRON card from your graveyard or banishment into the deck, except this card, and literally if you do, you can destroy the targeted cards, and you can only use the effect once per turn. But this is pretty crazy. Like, you get your board set up with your synchros, you have this as well. Hand traps, droplets, whatever, like, you're good to go. So pretty crazy as far as the lineup goes. And then just the other support cards, you got the 1 Call by the Grave, obviously for hand traps, and it can just be good against pretty much anything that goes in grave. Then you got the Foolish Burial. This gets you started, being able to send your starter and be able to go, since everything with CRYSTRON really is graveyard based. And then of course the 3 Droplet as another just solid breaker, going first or going second. So the main and 1 Prosperity, of course, for consistency. So the main deck ended up being 42 cards. We do see that with a lot of these decks, is you don't want to draw bricks or anything like that. So upping your deck count above 40 a lot of times can be beneficial, so really solid here. Onto the side deck, like I mentioned, he's got so many hand traps in the main deck, and then in the side deck he's covering all the bases. 3 Lancia, of course, this is for Malice, but this is also for the mirror match, and that's what I found out. I remember someone had told me, you know, Lancia is good against CRYSTRON, and after seeing them play game 1, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely siding in Lancia, and I got really lucky because I drew it, and, you know, it literally just, it wasn't as like impactful, I would say, as it was against Malice, but it still just prevented like craziness from happening, so it was pretty solid. And then he's also playing 3 copies of Meows and 3 copies of Perulia. So he has all 9 Charmies in between his main and side deck. So he's covered for pretty much every basis. This, of course, for Malice, and this, of course, for Ryziel. So you have every basis covered. He's got 1 copy of Dark Strike Fighter. You guys know why. It comes up because you're able to make level 7 synchros in this deck. Read the effect. Shout out to the OGs who remember this card before it's errata. It's pretty crazy. 2 copies of XYZ Encore. This is, of course, Check Dweller, and just anything to just take care of Detonate or anything like that. So this card's pretty solid. And then you've got, of course, the 3 Strike. Probably one of the best cards that we've seen make a resurgence this format for going first. Just being able to make your board and then literally have a strike behind it is just crazy because you have strike plus hand traps. Like, you can literally hand trap your opponent and then strike when you need to. So it's pretty crazy. I think this card is great, this format. And lastly, on to the extra deck. So the extra deck is always interesting. He does have the 1 copy of Invoke Makaba. Shout out to Invoke, shout out to Alistair, you guys already know. This, of course, it works in tandem with the Cyber Dragon Nova. Now, what's interesting is that not only can this come up just naturally through Nova's effect, but this can also come up because if you play against the Mitsurugi Ryziel deck, and I played, I think, against 3 of them in Swiss at Orlando, sometimes if they are playing, if they are playing Maximus, they will make you send 2 cards. So a lot of times you can send this and you could actually spit out a Makaba, which is actually crazy. I have no idea if that came up for him, but that's just one thing I remember when I was playing decks where your extra deck wasn't as important. You could literally send these and literally just make a Makaba, so that's pretty crazy. The main synchros, though, you've got, of course, the Centurion, the Legatia. You got the 1 copy of the, Ametrix, 2 copies of the, dear God, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Alescalestis, something like that. I have no clue. These names are really hard to say sometimes. So I got 2 copies of that. Got, of course, the 1 copy of the, Quangandrix or something like that. This card is crazy. Yeah, this card is nuts. This got summoned on me. I read that thing. I was like, yeah, that card is crazy. He's got the 1 copy of Dawn Dragster. So I do know in some builds they were ending on 2 copies, but he decided to play just 1. And then he did mention to me that the Dragon merch never really came up, so you can literally swap this card for anything else. So you can just put in anything else. You got, of course, the Samurai Destroyer. So this is very interesting as well, because what this is that you make this card, and then if it leaves the field, you can just target and resummon it, or you can basically keep it alive, as well as some other machines in your deck. So this is actually pretty cool. Like, you can target machine monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So this actually came up as well as something I learned when playing against the deck. So really cool being able to utilize this. And I mean, just on the off chance you go against Yubel, which, I mean, I would say there might still be some Yubel out there. Like, I wouldn't rule the deck out. Some players are still playing it with the Fiendsmith stuff. This card is like the Yubel killer, so this card's crazy. Then, of course, you know, the Infinity with the Nova. This is like pretty standard. Going first, a lot of times they'll end on the Infinity, along, you know, backed up with their hand traps, backed up with, you know, their other synchros. So this is just usually what you will see on the end board. Some end boards I've seen, you have Dawn Dragster and you also have Infinity. So it just really depends on, you know, how they open. But that seemed to be pretty standard when I played against CRYSTRON. So that's just things I noticed. Then, of course, the Typhon. This card is just crazy. You got the 1 copy of Cherubini to get your combos going. That was one thing I forgot to mention. This was like the thing that really stood out with his deck, because the person I played against played Tour Guide. He decided to do Terratop and Takum Tom board as like the starter. So I thought this was really cool. Just being able to, you know, special it out, literally just combo with there. It's also good hand trap bait as well, so this was pretty solid. And it also works with Clockwork Knight, because it is literally non-link monster with 1,000 or less attacks. You could literally do this, so this is pretty cool. Just another, you know, pretty much a indirect support card that ended up working for the CRYSTRON strategy. And lastly, the SP Little Knight. So that is the deck, you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like I said, I don't know too much about CRYSTRON. I have played against them now, so I know a little bit more than I did before, but it's really interesting to see a deck like this starting to, you know, get more recognition, and I really hope we see more players you know, bring it to bigger events so we can see it top main events, because I think this is a really cool deck. It's cool to see CRYSTRON doing things after all these years. I know that there was always, you know, talk of them back in the day with Halki 5-Racks and everything, but of course Halki 5-Racks became anything but a CRYSTRON card. It basically supported every other deck, so now being able to see CRYSTRON in its pure form actually do things is amazing. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.